Hello and welcome to this episode of Mama's Confidence. I am so excited that you're here. And today we're going to have a very, very special guest. And I can't wait to hear more of her story. And we've been chatting. I kind of found her via Twitter through an organization I work with the California Task Force on the Status of Maternal Health. And she's just rocking it out. And I don't know, I saw her and I was just like, I got to interview her. So, and I thought she was locally, but she's not anymore, but that's okay. She's still in California. But anyhow, so yes, I want to welcome you first. All of you to welcome to Mom's Confidence. My name is Jessica Walker. This is a virtual mentor show, helping mothers and giving them self-confidence, the confidence to heal and start a business if they want to, or the confidence just to be a mom. Whatever it is that's on your heart to do, we want to give you the confidence to do so. So we interview moms and dads making it happen at home and in their community. And today we have Kat, and I can't pronounce her name correctly, so I'm going to have her pronounce it for me. And she's going to introduce herself. And we'll go ahead and get started. So Kat, go right ahead.
Thanks. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Right. So the long name is Katayune Kaeni, and I'm a psychologist. I specialize in maternal mental health. I've been toying around with the idea of just going by Dr. Kat, because that would save everybody the headache. And
do you like cats at all?
What's that?
Okay.
Yeah, cats are cool, but my husband's allergic,
I was going to say maybe you can use a little cat with your.
Fine. So yeah, I'm in private practice. I specialize in maternal mental health, but I've got my hands and arms in multiple other organizations and programs to try and advance the knowledge of maternal mental health issues, raise awareness for the moms who often feel so alone and stuck, to let them know that they're not alone, and it's a thing. Pregnancy and postpartum mood disorders, or things like anxiety and depression, things like that, they're very real. So my goal is to reach the mom who feels alone in her home, and give her a lifeline, and let her know that there's help available. So I do that in part by seeing people in my private practice here. This is my office. We're in my office in Claremont, and I also run a free pregnancy and postpartum stress group out of Pomona Valley Hospital, which is local here, Southern California. I work with the county of Bernardino to get their service providers trained in maternal mental health issues, and train wherever I can and speak wherever I can, working with 2020 Mom a little bit, and another local organization called Maternal Mental Health Now out of LA. Very good, very strong program. In LA County. So just trying to get anywhere that I can yell from my mountaintop and tell people about maternal mental health issues.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about, do you mind sharing your journey, or do you want to? Okay, so tell us a little bit about.
Sure. No, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Yes, I do mind. No.
I don't know these people. No. Okay, so yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey and kind of how you got into this whole thing. How did you get started with maternal health?
Absolutely. Right. So I was already a practicing psychologist, working for a major hospital, seeing clients and all that stuff, and doing my thing. And I got pregnant, and everything was fine and good. That was planned, so wasn't dealing with the surprise of that. Super happy and excited. And then I had her, my daughter, and things changed fairly quickly within the first couple of days after birth. If I'm totally honest with myself, like day one, is when I noticed some anxiety happening, and I was like, oh, this is normal. Yeah, it's a new person. I'm gonna just be checking on this baby every 2 seconds. Cool. But I didn't really, chalk it up to much of anything, just kind of feeling nervous and worried. I mean, she came out healthy. She was fine, thankfully. Anyhow, so fast forward a bit. I found myself crying all the time, really, really worried about this whole idea, which we can get into later, about, I thought I was supposed to know what to do. Where is this mothering instinct, kind of a thing. I should know how to do everything, and everything should feel easy. I had some difficulties with latching and nursing, some pain and whatnot that took a little while to resolve. So that was another factor that added into the stress. But my internally, it was like, okay, well, I'll just get through this. It'll be okay. Like, it's fine. And at that point, it wasn't like postpartum depression or anxiety wasn't really on my radar. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later too, but for now, it was sort of not an option. Like, no, not me. So it was, I'm not going to, I don't need to deal with that. Like, that's not going to be a thing I deal with. Was what I was telling myself, basically, to cope and get through. So just time went by, I became more and more agitated, really, really frustrated and angry, at home with my husband, and with my daughter, and lack of sleep and all of these other things. And it got really, really intense to a point where I just felt totally alone and lost, and it felt like nobody was on my side. Nobody understood what was going on, which, how could they? Because I didn't say anything. I was just kind of like, strong mother, I'll, go on and do this. And okay, I guess this is what it's like. It kind of sucks, but I'm not going to tell anybody. And then it got really intense. I started having intrusive thoughts, that like throwing my daughter against the wall, like really rageful stuff. And that was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And I certainly didn't want to tell anyone about that. Because what would they say? What would they do? And so I just kind of dealt with that silently for some time. And it took me about a year. I went back to work at about 3.5 months. And because I had to. I don't know that I would have otherwise, but I had to. And so, well, anyways, that's a complicated story. I was going to lose my benefits.
No, I've been there. I have been there. Like, you know what? If I don't go back to work, I don't have any money. So, and that's, it's so funny you say that, is because that's the reason why I've started to, because at first when I started doing this whole social entrepreneur thing, what I'm doing now, beforehand, I started out for the nonprofit world. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a nonprofit. I'm going to get all this money from people that'll donate and, I'll get sponsorship, blah, 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 blah. And that didn't happen. I found myself competing a lot for different, grants and things like that. And I kept getting shut down. I was like, well, nobody cares about moms. Like, it's like, oh no, the kids. But it's like, duh, if you think about it, if we're dealing with the moms and we're taking care of the moms, that'll funnel down to the kids. Hello. Then you don't have to deal with those issues later on with the kids. But anyway, so,
right,
girl, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend hours just on that.
Anyway, to make a long story short, I stopped doing that. I moved into the online world and found out what I can make money doing this, like speaking and and I can help people doing this. So I moved into the online world and started the whole business aspect of being a social, and I didn't even know what a social entrepreneur was. I just kind of fell onto it, and I was like, oh, I can help people and make money. So I'm like, why don't I teach other women how to make money online? How other moms, how you could stay at home and help your kids and still, So anyway, that's how we got into the whole business aspect. So I'll be asking you a little bit about how you got started with your business on the side. But continue on with your story. I just wanted to, jump in and let you know that's really awesome. And that's really great that you've now embarked on your own journey and started your own practice. So that's kudos to you. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you. That was quite a leap. But yeah, we can talk about that. So right, but in terms of what my process was, it took me about a year to realize that to be like totally honest with myself and realize what was really, really going on. And looking back, you know, I had some support. I think I had gone into therapy in part because like the work environment was very stressful, and I kind of blamed it on that, but it wasn't just that. So anyhow, it took me a long time to figure out what was going on. And then once I realized what was happening, I was just so pissed that nobody had talked to me about this ever. Like there wasn't a discussion. I didn't learn about it in grad school. We didn't talk. It wasn't like a, hey, you should really watch out. Like this is a thing and people deal with this. Nothing. It wasn't talked about, you know, again, it was maybe touched on, you know, there was like potentially like a group for postpartum moms, but it wasn't like the information hadn't been disseminated to everyone.
What year was this, by
we
the
didn't
way?
all know.
2010.
2010.
Okay. Yep. Next person.
2010. So it made me really angry, and out of that anger, you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm a therapist, I'm a psychologist, I have the degree, you know, I should know about these things, but nobody told me. So even though I was seeing women in, you know, at the hospital who came in with postpartum depression and stuff like that, still I didn't have that awareness. I didn't know enough about it. So I was like, you know, if I don't know about it, and I'm a therapist, I have this degree, how in the world are other moms figuring this out? How are they alone, like in their homes, or, you know, maybe they're not alone. Maybe they had a helpful OB or pediatrician or someone who like said, hey, look out for this kind of stuff. But, you know, I was given a depression questionnaire screen, which was great. Like in terms of looking back on that and knowing that they were at least kind of searching for it, there was no discussion. There was no like, this is why we're asking, you know, be as honest as you can. It was just a form that was handed to me amongst some other forms. And I was like, oh yeah, right. So for me, I was like, well, I know what they're asking. I'm a therapist. I know what you're trying to get at. So I was very careful about how I answered it. And the part of it is that I was very anxious by that time, and there were no like real questions about anxiety on that particular questionnaire. Had there been, I would have maybe still lied a little bit, but had the ability to reflect.
No, you're right.
You know, like that's me. Yeah. So anyhow, so it lit a fire in me, and that's what keeps me going is well, now when I hear this daily, you know, from moms. Nobody told me, I didn't know, or all this other stuff about how we're supposed to feel and what we're supposed to think, and it all is like based on some Hallmark card that, you know, somebody put out
probably a man
50 years ago or whatever. I don't know.
Probably a man. Exactly. Let's be real.
Let's be honest.
Most likely it was a man, and you know, he had no idea. You know, anyway. But yeah, no, and that's one of the main reasons, again, why I began this whole series of interviewing mothers, really in business, but as well as in mental health, because I read something that said, you know, the confidence to heal, and I was like, women don't, or it said, mothers don't have the confidence to heal, or women don't have the confidence, one of the two. But I was just like, yeah, you know, it wasn't really a thing. Like you said, it was like the form was handed to me with a bunch of other forms, and actually, I was told after the end of it, you have depression. Okay, so on enough, you know, the baby, whatever. I'm like, oh, and then I was like, well, I don't believe you, you know. Anyway, and like you said, I didn't fill it out really all the way. I was just like, oh no, I know what they're getting at with this one. No, you know, it was more or less like, let me maneuver around because they're going to try to take my baby. You know, they don't really want to know how I feel. They just want to, you know. So, yeah, you're right. You're dead on. And that's, like you said, lit up the fire. It lit up the fire in me as well. And it had to take my son though. It took my son to say, Mom, you know, what's going on? I knew something was up, but I didn't know what. But it took him to say it oh no, you're not going to affect my kid, you know. So Anyway, yeah. So moving forward with the questions here, what's like the one thing that you would tell a mother that doesn't have the confidence that she needs to move forward or to seek help or whatever? What's that one thing you would tell her so she gains confidence or to start a business, whatever? Some, those milestones in life, those things in life that kind of keep you, barriered and keep you down. What would you tell her to overcome those? Yeah, I know, right? That's a big loaded question, it really is. But
there's so many things. Well, specifically to we have intuition. We have a little voice, and sometimes it's a big voice. It's trying to knock you on your ass, but most of the time it's like a little thing you hear, like, oh, that would be nice or whatever. But we're on some level kind of trained to not listen to it and to set it aside and to do for not necessarily just do for others, but what's the message in society that actually leads to moms when they're feeling depressed and anxious, not getting the help that they need? Like the message is that just kind of
you should be happy. You have a child. You should be happy. Yeah, you're a mother, and mothers don't get, number one. That's a piece of my speech as well. Mothers don't get sick, and mothers definitely don't get depressed. They do not get mental illness.
Oh, no. And there's actually a real difficulty with the whole, so it's, I guess for moms who are depressed and having difficulty with motivation and getting up and getting going those moms often get the well, get up, go do something. Or maybe even stop being lazy, some really harsh judgmental stuff. But moms who are anxious cannot sit down. And they are doing stuff all the time. And people are happy with that. And it reinforces that. Okay, well, I'll just keep doing.
You just keep doing and doing and doing, because that's where you're getting the reward or the I guess the motivation and just the, push forward. It's like, oh no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but you're not dealing with the problem. You're not dealing with the issue. So, yes.
Right.
It's pretty bad. Yeah. Right. So that's, I want to bust that myth of the whole, as soon as you have a baby, you're going to be just happy and everything's going to fall in the line. And you're going to feel like everything's just joyful and like the Sound of Music type thing.
Right. There's a small percentage of moms who feel that way, and that's awesome. No. But it's not the most. It's not.
No, when that baby wakes up at 2 a.m. in the morning, you haven't slept for 2-3 days. You're like, ah! Yeah. Or if you're nursing, oh my gosh, and you're already having these thoughts and these feelings like you're not sufficient, you're not worthy enough, and all this other stuff. And on top of that, you have chest hurt. Your chest is, it's a problem. Believe me. With 6 kids, I've been through I think every stage of just, oh my gosh, it's just horrible. So no way, no how do you go by what TV and what society says motherhood is supposed to look like, because it definitely does not look that way. All right. So moving forward with the questions here. Right. Tell me one thing that you think you would do differently, either in your practice itself in the business portion or in personal life, that you've encountered through this whole journey.
Just specifically dealing with postpartum issues or business.
What it's something that you've learned, I guess.
I think it's going back to the idea of confidence. It doesn't just happen. It's sort of, you have to practice it. Do the thing that's a little bit scary and see what happens. So that you can either see that it works or looking at things sort of like an experiment instead of a life sentence. So to say if you can listen to that intuition, if you can hear that voice that's telling you need to do this thing or you want to do that thing, of course it's also, you're going to see all the barriers to it. And those barriers may always be there, but it doesn't mean you can't still try. So putting the ones foot forward, putting feelers out there, and just see what happens. If you get feedback that is good and positive and you can take the next step, awesome. if you get positive, if you get feedback that's like, no, that's not right, or it doesn't fit, or it doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's over. It means you just need to look for a new way. And so in terms of building something, you have to be slightly vulnerable, at least, or a lot vulnerable sometimes, and take a risk. But not succeeding right away doesn't mean failure. I think we all forget that we're in a process.
That's so true.
We're always in a process. It's going to take some time. It's going to take trial and error. And any one thing that happens does not have a bearing on the meaning of who you are. It means something about your experience, but not who you are fundamentally as a person. And I think we need to start stripping that away, that if I don't do X, Y, or Z, then that means I'm a failure.
And that's certainly not true at all.
It's really damaging.
I love that. So how did you overcome the fear of getting started, if you had any fear at all, of getting started with your own practice, I mean?
So I had that feeling of, well, there's a couple of things. It ultimately led to me stepping out. I was in a very secure job with a nice, good benefits, a high pay increase every year, all of that stuff. But I was miserable because it didn't fit for me, and certainly not after becoming a mom. It didn't fit for me.
Sure.
For a lot of reasons, which I'm not going to today. But so it became necessary. It was either stay there and lose my mind and feel sick and disrupt my family in order to have those golden handcuffs, or step out and do something different. So I kind of had to step out and do something different because my health, my mental health, my family's health was kind of at stake. Being able to, be present and be at home.
Exactly.
Be present when I wasn't.
I love that. I love the fact that you said, step out. That piece I got from you was just step out. Just step out on the faith, just step out and know that, you know what, my family's more important than being in a safety net or being in that box and being safe. I have to step out and see really truthfully if it's going to work, because really, in essence, you can go back. If you need to go back, you're pretty sure you can find a nice, comfy little space you can go back to and still feel that safety. But to step out, I'm sure you felt liberated and felt like free, right? Absolutely.
I'm a little bit scared, at the same time. Those two things for sure were at the same time. How am I going to do this? Or how are people going to find me? Specifically in terms of being a therapist, they don't teach you how to run the business side of therapy. They just teach you to be there for people. But you have to run a business in order to help people if you're going to do it on your own.
You're saying my language. Exactly. And it's so comforting to hear it coming from you, and to hear it, and confirming as well, to hear it come from you to say, you know what, I have a gazillion degrees. I've been to school, I'm educated, but the business side, I had to learn, so, and it's really, I think we can send that message out to all of our moms out there that you can do this. And it doesn't matter if you have a gazillion degrees or you don't have a degree at all, you still have a passion. You have something that's fire within you. You have something that you can give, especially being a mom. Like you will learn some jobs. Being a mom for about a year or two, you will be a party planner, a housekeeper, a taxi cab driver. You will definitely find some kind of niche you can monetize. So just know that that's there. And it's very comforting to hear you say that, Kat. So thank you so much. So moving on to our next question. So how are you doing in the whole realm of, tell me a little bit about let's stick on the business side for just a moment, and then we'll kind of go back into our mental health section here. But on the business side of things, what were the steps you took? What steps did you take to get, your website and, everything just set up, find a place, all that good stuff?
Right. So, I started in San Francisco first. And then after about a year and a half or 2 years, I moved down here. Wow. So I started twice. I had to start and then restart. Initially, it was really about finding a place first. Gotcha. I needed an address so that I could like have a tax ID, and I basically stumbled through it. I found people that I either knew or kind of knew, and asked them what they did and what are the essentials. What do I absolutely need to do in order to, get this going? So it was a lot of reaching out. It was a lot of saying, I don't know. It was a lot of, trying to figure it out and be okay with not knowing, for the most part. So, finding a spot, finding people that I could consult with who were specialists in maternal mental health, and picking their brains, and just being able to say, like, this is what I want to do, and I don't know really how to go about doing it. So what do you suggest? Do you have any books I can read? Do you, these
a lot of networking then.
Asking a lot of questions.
Collaborations and just coming together and finding people that are already where you want to be and learning from them.
Yep. Absolutely. That's the biggest, that even now, still, it's ongoing. That part, building relationships is super important.
I'm so glad you said that. Like, you're so in line with what I say all the time. So I'm so glad you said that. All right, so moving along. This is a good one. As a mother, how do you balance it all?
Ooh, also work in progress. So I have to set boundaries with myself and make a decision, even, sometimes day to day, but certainly, like, unless I have a major project coming up, or I'm doing something that's outside of my day to day, like if I'm going to present somewhere or do a training or something that takes additional time, I try and leave my weekends for my family. So, like, if I can set that limit, there's sometimes where I need to do stuff on the weekends, and that's fine. So I try to set the, like, what do I want my ideal week to look like? What would be perfect? And then work backwards from there. So I want to be able to have the flexibility to spend time with my family. I don't want my nights to be stressful. I mean,
exactly.
Like, you can. Sometimes they are, with the picking up kids. I have 2 kids, picking up kids and dinner and,
on top of
all that stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. So when am I going to fit in grocery shopping, or, my daughter's got this project that needs to be done. So tag team, who's going to do that? Is my husband doing it? Am I doing it?
Yeah.
Like hallway passing, like, you got this? Yeah. Okay, you got that? Right. But even at the end of the day, if I feel like something's very pressing, like, that absolutely needs to get done, I'll have to think to myself, like, how do I want my night to feel, and how's that going to affect tomorrow? So if I'm already tired, but my, like, feeling is, I really want to get this thing done, I know myself enough to know that if I push myself tonight, I'm going to pay for it tomorrow. So I'm just going to leave my laptop here so that I don't do it, whatever that thing is. Kind of trick myself a little bit.
All right, so let me see. I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Sorry about that. All right, let me take a look at our next question here. It's a good one. Have you had any problems with haters, like people that have seen you succeed, and that could be either family or otherwise, that have just seen you kind of move forward and go, well, you.
Okay, this is a very good question, a very rich question for me. So this was I had a good lesson that came from this. So I had a very cool opportunity to do an interview for KPCC, which is the Southern California NPR. And it was an interview on, they were doing a piece on texting and breastfeeding. So, kind of being on your mobile device while interacting with your child. So I'm coming at this from like a clinical perspective, like, yeah, sure, you're going to be on your phone, fine. But if it's all the time and you're missing cues and you're not attuning to your child, like if it's, being used all the time and it's being used forever and it's getting in the way of, your relationship, then there's an issue. So that was my perspective. So it aired. I didn't know that it was going to air on the radio. And I didn't know it was going to be national. And my assumption is that it was national because about what I'm going to tell you. I got some calls from people like, girl, I heard you on the radio. So I was like, okay, cool. So anyhow, I got someone who heard me on the radio wanted me to do a presentation on like technology and its effects on maternal mental health and bonding. So something really great came from it, which was awesome. I just did that. It was a great experience.
Well, congratulations. Let me just say that. Congratulations.
Feel passionate about on some levels. Thank you. So that was all great and wonderful. And then I got some advice from a business person who said, every once in a while, just Google yourself and see where you come up and how you come up and see what's going on. So I did. And I was like, oh, there's some I'm in some article in Australia. Let me just click on that. So I clicked on it and this woman tore me apart. She was like, this American psychologist listed my name and all this other stuff. She's basically it was like, they said I was shaming mothers, saying that they shouldn't be on their phones and like, it's, this kind of thing. But then the whole article was like, well, actually somebody that I do trust is this other expert. So I click on the link and it goes to this a clip of basically like an Australian daytime talk show, like The View, similar to The View, of people discussing the interview, and saying, they didn't name me by name, but say, this American psychologist said this and this and that. Can you believe it? And it was like a roundtable discussion about basically like,
no,
what
that's
does she
like,
know?
that's awesome press, man. You should have been like,
so I'm looking at this and I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm on.
It was so surreal.
People are talking about me. Whether it was, yeah, you were like, I know you were like, but you gotta think, like,
that was not my first reaction.
All the way in Australia, like they thought it was good enough for them to have a table topic about it, their little version of The View, whatever. So you should have been like, yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, that's not how I felt. My feeling was like, but no, like that's not what I said. That's not what I mean. And I'm not talking about like, average moms, who are not dealing with any type of other maternal mental health issues. I'm like talking about moms who are anxious and, I went into this like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So I did reach out to a couple of other professionals and about this, like, okay, this is a scenario. This is what happened. I got differing advice, ignore it. Don't worry about it. This is going to happen. And then other people saying, well, you can always respond to them and say, well, exactly. I'm really glad that this topic is getting, press. And if you want some details about what I actually said, here you go. And I'm happy to talk, this kind of stuff. But it was like such a good lesson for me on, by the way, I'm listed on several other websites with, there was one article, I can't remember what it is, but the same thing. Like, can you believe this woman shaming us mothers?
Exactly
She's
correct.
trolling us. And I was like, wait a minute. I think you're trolling me. I think that's but I was like, okay, so I'm maybe on 4 or 5 different websites. I'm, not named on this Australian talk show, but they're talking about the interview.
I don't want to say fame, but just getting that exposure. That's what I'll use. Getting that exposure. As soon as you get that exposure, you're going to get people that are just, but the bulk of it are the people, the silent ones that aren't saying anything, that are going, yeah, I got something from that. So You're right. You shouldn't really focus in on all of the negative Nancy's and all that, because they're going to be there. And like I said, yeah, you definitely have the option to, rebuttal. Like I said, I would have turned it totally into a positive thing. Like, you think I'm that special to talk about me? Thank you, like, thank you so much, because I'm just telling you exactly the way that I feel, and blah, 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 and this is how the issue. But anyway, no, girl, I think that's great. I'm like, what? They were talking about you in Australia. Go, girl. Whether it was negative or positive. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it was for sure a lesson to me that, those people are going to be out there. And I was like, okay, it may take a double take too. Like how I read media now, I'm like, oh, are they trying to spin something? Are they trying to get ratings? Like, what is this really about? This is not about the content. So what is that really about? And also I'm like, okay, like around the same time that I was reading through this, like, I think there was something about Mother Teresa or something in the news about her getting sainthood or something like that. I have no feelings about it either way.
My
like,
gosh.
Cool, be a saint, fine. But I was reading through the comments, and people were like,
okay, you
tearing
go
her
in on
apart.
Mother
And I was
Teresa,
like, well,
no problem.
if you get torn apart, then
there's nothing
whatever.
wrong with the world.
I'm good.
No.
Right. Yeah. They're like, she's a horrible person.
Exactly.
Like,
the people, like I said, the people that you really were truly
you can say whatever you want about me, because you just lost.
That message was meant to hit. It did. So everybody else, like I said, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you did that, and kudos to you. Congratulations, and girl, rock it, because it's definitely something that needs to be explained and talked about. And I think you're just the person to do it, because you're there. You've been there, all that good stuff, and they haven't. So, okay. So then moving along, that was a great example of haterism, definitely. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, right in my face. So, okay, let's just deal with this. Now I feel like, okay, whatever.
Through that whole thing while you're in it, you're like, fine, but then once you overcome it, you're like, that was nothing. Like, okay, if that's the way you want to be, it's gonna come. People are gonna be people. I tell my kids all the time, and they say, "Mom, why did you do that?" Like they'll do, someone else, and I'll say, "People are people." It's very simple. It's very direct. It's to the point. And they just are. You're going to have some good ones, and you're going to have some bad ones. You're going to have some people that make some bad choices. You're going to have some people that are, highly distinguished and everything else that make some bad choices. You're going to have some that don't have any money that make some bad choices too. You have to focus in on you and make sure that you are living the right way. You're doing what you're supposed to do, and that's it. You can't focus on anybody else. So that's my little spiel, sir. People that need to give their kids tips. All right, so we already did that question. Okay, so name one thing your kid has done to make you either laugh or cry.
Oh man, my son, maybe a little bit of both. So my son, my second child, he'll be 3 in June. This was a couple months ago. He's like 2.5. It was nighttime. We were like having some sweet little snuggles. Like lights are low. It's bedtime. I'm just like loving him up. I'm not having any more kids, so I'll rock him to sleep as long as I can. So it's all quiet, and he whispers to me. He's like, "Mommy, I can cut your head off." And I was like, "What?" I couldn't. He was like, just out of the blue, like, I can cut your head off. And I was like, what just happened? At first I was like slightly terrified, like, like flashbacks of Chucky and like other crazy movies. But then I just laughed and laughed and laughed, because it's just the most random thing. And like, he's such a sweet little nugget.
I think he's probably just
not gonna cut my head off.
I
don't even know where he got it.
I'm glad earlier, and I was scheduling this show, and I jumped in on some Irish guys, and they were singing, and I was just cracking up. And I'm like, where are they? And they were like, "Oh no, we go!" And they were cracking up, and they were just, they were just playing around. And he said, "Yeah, so I made a poem." And he said, "Yeah, death was in." And he said the poem was when he was 8 years old, and he said death was in his eyes. He took the child, and he took her, and he strangled her at the end, or something like that. And he said, and in our country, because they were in the UK or somewhere, and he was like, "Oh yeah, in our country, they were thinking." that something was wrong with me and that I had been molested. And he said that they called my parents in, and then when they were like interviewing my parents, he's like, no, man, I just watched a crazy movie that night. That was all. That was it. I wasn't thinking about doing anything crazy or anything like that.
Right.
That,
something to...
Yeah. Oh my goodness. He said, "Oh, someone's asking us our age."
Yeah. Maybe it's like a little too much Star Wars in our house.
Actually,
I'm not
sure. Older than that, so I always get I'm a teenager. So anyway, all right. So we'll move to the last question here because I know you have to run. And let's see, grab it. All right. So we already asked you to balance it all. What motivates you and how to stay focused? I have one more question that pertains to mental health after this, but I want to know what motivates you and how do you stay focused?
Well, a couple of things. I'd like to give you like a really like awesome motivational like answer.
Kat, I love you.
I got bills to pay.
You're
like I just
realist chick. I
have bills. I got like
you know what?
I mean, that's part of it for sure. I have loans. Every time I'm like, cool, we're doing good. I think I'm okay, and then it's like, oh, I got to pay my loan again.
I'm sure helping moms is a big one.
No, I mean more than that. Like, of course, like there's those day-to-day things that are. Well, absolutely. That, I mean, in terms of what really, really keeps the fire going is absolutely. I 100% have a passion for this. And I was actually worried when I was going through grad school, like, all of this feels like very, okay, help the general population, that's fine. But like, am I ever going to find a passion? And out of my pain, out of my experience is where I found that. And you don't know that you're going to find it until you're on the other side. But I did. And so this is the part that keeps me going. Like, in part my, like, I'll just call it anger for now, but that more moms aren't being told about this. I'm wanting to get the information out, wanting to hear, wanting to know that other providers know how to help these moms. And like the day that I don't have a job because everybody is like set is the best day. Like the day that I'm not getting calls anymore because those moms are getting the help.
Wait a minute, don't give our moms that idea.
Open a bed and breakfast somewhere, like make cookies every afternoon.
I know, right? I mean, I have my business side of it. It's so funny that you said that because I started the cupcake life, right. And the reason why I said, and I call my mom's cupcakes because I think like we, in our lives we need certain ingredients. There are certain ingredients that we mix in that just makes our perfect cupcake, right? And what's right for me may not be right for someone else. And, some people like to make healthier cupcakes, all that good stuff. But it's the ingredients that we put in. It's those different pieces, those different experiences, those different, that ultimately make, either our business or ourselves, I should say, just that fuel passion, just keep us going. So I applaud you and I thank you so much for coming on because this was great. I love this whole hour. I've just been cracking up at you. You are just so funny. I love it. So tell people where to find you, what your website is, all that good stuff.
Thanks. Okay, website, drkaeni.com, drkaeni.com. I'm on Twitter at Dr. Kaeni. I'm on, I'm on Facebook, Dr. Kaeni. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is at Maternal Wellness.
So you're on Facebook, Twitter, and you have a website as well.
Right. What else?
And all right. So yes, we definitely will be talking a little bit offline because I definitely want to shoot you over some ideas that I've had to help out moms. But leave us with one piece of information that you want, because I know we've said over and over again, we just want to get this information out to moms. We want moms to know that number one, they're not alone in this, and then number two, there's someone here to help you. And then and then I guess number 3 is we want to train providers to help moms to have the access where we can't reach. But that's another reason why I started this whole social healing and social wellness and whatever I called it, pocket healing, whatever I called it. So that we can start getting this information out via the internet and social media. But tell us, I guess 1 or 2 or however many you have, tips, I guess, to heal, number 1. So we have tips. And then number 2, next steps, if they've either encountered it before and now they're okay, or if they're going through it. So I guess 1 would be tips to heal, and then the 2 would be steps. So any of those, and any mixture of those, because I didn't have that question formulated correctly, any mixture of those works.
That's okay.
Mine is music. I think music is integral, as well as journaling.
And steps to take. Right, absolutely. So the things that speak to you and help change your state. Not everybody does, and some people need to learn that. And maybe that's part of their process is finding out, where do you get your soothing? Where do you get your comfort? Some people are introverts and they need time alone. So time alone. Some people are extroverts and need social time. Need social time. And some people are both, depending on the situation. And it may, they may need to go in and out of that.
I was just about to say that, I swear.
But really do understanding that self-care is not selfish.
I swear, we're like the 2 sisters from opposite moms, I'm telling you right now.
I didn't tell you I'm psychic too, right? Yeah, that's the lie that we've all been taught, is that somehow
if you're not with your baby all of the time, then you're
being selfish.
What's the word I'm looking
doing
for?
things only for anybody else. But it's not.
What's it called when you don't take care of your children? Oh my God. There we go. Yes. So you don't have to be with your child 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. And that, you can't take that hour or 2 to be by yourself, or go somewhere and listen to music or whatever, get a coffee, go to the store. So don't feel bad. For me, I used to feel bad even at Target by myself. So.
Right. Right. Yeah. There's so much guilt in motherhood.
Yes.
If I could just erase all of that, guilt and shame are the enemies. First you feel bad that you feel the way you feel, and then what it just So finding ways to heal yourself, to soothe yourself, to be replenished. It's hard to be touched all day by a baby. It's stimulating, although maybe you love it and you love the kisses and the cuddles and all that too, but at no other time in your life are you constantly being touched. There may be you may just need to sit by yourself for a minute, and that's okay. But it is a matter of kind of checking in, if you can, checking in with yourself, listening to that tiny little voice that's saying just want to, if I could just walk away or go on a drive or whatever. There's something there that's telling you what you need, and it doesn't need to mean anything. It doesn't need to mean you're selfish or you're neglectful or anything like that.
I love that. So I think a big piece of
to mean that you're listening to your intuition,
that you're human.
Honor that.
So don't forget that. Don't forget, as a mom, just because you became a mom, that you're some super being that's just supposed to, no, you're still human. You still need to check in with yourself. You still need to check in with your kids, every now and then. But it's okay for you to say, hey, Dad, you helped me make them, so take it. And take it for a walk so I can have a moment by myself, because my kids even come in the back. Seriously, I can't even. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm in there's only one toilet in here. What do you think? Exactly. Oh, girl, I do, but they still are like, can you?
Right.
When you come out, are you almost done? It's like, So just make sure you're taking the time to take care of yourself. Thank you so much, Kat, for joining us today. today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We have your information. And like I said, we'll be contacting you
Absolutely.
offline. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'll go ahead and end it with, I usually have a little, do you have a poem around you anywhere? Or a
Great.
saying or a quote? There we go. Read it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Well, I have one that's on my website.
Love it.
Oh, it's very
Love
short.
it.
It's very
Thank you
short.
so much. We're going to end with
It
that.
says,
All
the
right.
wound
See
is
you
where
guys
the
all
light
later.
enters.
You can tweet to me at Jaw Speaks on Twitter. You can also find us at www.jaw, oh my gosh, what's the name of our website? jawresearchinstitute.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.